How's it going, guys? Daniel here, aka HashLips, and welcome back to the continuation of the A to Z Ultimate Minting Dapp tutorial. This series, I'm just taking you through the steps of what we've discussed previously and also what we've built step by step, line by line in the previous tutorials. So go and check out the previous tutorial series if you want to see how this is all built from scratch. In this tutorial, we've now created all the layers, we've placed it into the Minting Dapp on V3 branch, and I've finally minted the 1,000 NFTs. It literally took me only about a minute to mint all 1,000 NFTs. So keep in mind when you're creating your layers, it's important that you keep them small. So for instance, these layers, they are roughly about 26, max 60, 100 kilobytes. So that's why it took my collection so fast to mint. But that being said, now we need somewhere that we can host these NFTs on. Now I already have my metadata set up. It's going to be on this on this server. And I already bought the server. I'm going to load up all the metadata files, and then I'm going to make sure that they're publicly accessible. This is important because this is where the metadata will live, and that will hold the files and the images. I've explained in my previous tutorials that I prefer this method because I control the metadata and the NFTs. Of course, people might ask, well, what if you take it off? Well, on OpenSea, there's a feature where you can freeze your NFTs metadata. That is a way for OpenSea to upload it to IPFS as well. But the reason why I want to do this, because I want to make this an interactive NFT experience that people buy and own, and it will be up there forever. And on a later stage, I will show people then how to take this server data and actually create your own little server, host it from your own server. I'll then maybe elaborate how we can convert it to go to IPFS. So there's a reason for me doing this. That being said, these NFTs will be available for sale after this tutorial series. So be sure to go and check them out and maybe grab one of these for yourself. These look scary. Some of them look freaking cool. So yeah, and if you've grabbed one, let me know in the comments. Maybe come and share it on Twitter. I would really appreciate it. Maybe start the hashtag where you write nerdy coder clones. It would be very cool. And I'll go and check them out. Let's continue with this series. And the next thing that we need to do is actually go ahead and go to the server and upload all this data. After this tutorial, I would upload a copy of this code exactly as it is without the exported data, of course, otherwise it's too big for GitHub, but it would have all the included input files. So you can go and run this program. Obviously, the NFTs you create won't be the real and nerdy coded clones because it's not created from my address, so I don't mind sharing the images with you. Let's carry on and let's go and upload this to the server. So in the previous tutorial, I do talk about this and show you how to upload it. All you need is a shared server of some kind. You can even have a dedicated host, whatever you want to do, as long as you have a kind of server where you can serve the data and publicly release what you have in your collection. This is the root folder of our server, and currently there's only this index.php on it, and basically this just returns a normal web page saying that I've bought this domain. So if we go to it, it would say this. But we are going to replace that with our Dapp later on, but I want to include the metadata so long. So next, what I can do is I have to create a folder called metadata. I go and say create folder, and then on the permissions, I make sure that the permissions have the execute and read access on it, especially for world. You want to keep the write access only to the user. Perfect. What we then can do is go into this folder and we can open up the file where our 1,000 NFTs are sitting. So just go and select all of them like so. including the metadata.json. The reason why I include all the metadata is because let's say I want to use it again and I don't have it individually separated, whatever the case might be, I might need to use it in the future. It's also a good idea to make a duplicate of this and save it offline as well as online, just to have a copy before you go ahead and delete the repo. The reason why I say this is because you want to make sure that you are able to always show this data to the user. Later on, when we upload these things to IPFS on a later stage, we want to make sure that we have the exact same data. So this is kind of very important. Anyways, let's go ahead and compress this. It's about 105 megabytes. And after I've done that, I'm going to close this off, move this to the side. Then I'm going to say upload to my server, pull in the archive file, and then just wait for this to upload. Once it's finished with the upload and I have all the data on here, I'm then going to verify if I can actually reach it by calling the URL and seeing if I can retrieve the NFT's metadata. I'll pause the video and come back once it's all uploaded. So now that everything is uploaded onto the server, we need to make sure that all the permissions are 0755. You might see that if you select one, that the execution on these two groups will be selected off. Just make sure that they are selected on. It just helps with permissions and browsers having sometimes issues with it, especially if you try and call the data. There's one more thing that I need to change, and this is actually my own fault. And the reason for that is I'll show you now. If we go back to the nerdy coder clones, I've typed in metadata and I get the metadata, but I'm not getting the image. And a lot of people have asked me, they get 404. Now, I can tell you now what your mistake probably was. I typed in metadata and not metadata, which isn't a problem because the thing is I can call this folder whatever I want to. It's just if you don't pick it up, the slight little change, you will wonder what's happening. And this might have happened to a bunch of you guys. I'm going to fix this. Instead of re-rendering the collection, because I do not want to change the collection, I can change what folder it's sitting in. So basically what I can do is I can say, cool, rename this, and this is going to be forever now metadata, which is kind of cool as well, right? But anyway, this might be something that you run into, and if you do, please make sure to check it out. Make sure that if you click on the metadata that you actually get it. We can just verify a random one for now, such as 42, and see if we can find it. Obviously, we need to now target the metadata, which is fine. And there we go. And this is 42. And that is beautiful. Now, I'm very happy with this. And once everything is on the server and ready to rock, you have set the permissions to be 0755, you should be ready to go. Like I mentioned before, there's numerous ways of doing this, and on a later stage, I'm going to anyway show you how to upload this to a personal server, to host your own data and a REST API, and even to do it the IPFS way. But I always start off this way, and this is just so that I can see everything working and connecting properly. Next, we will need to go and actually pull down from the repos some code, which we're going to put into Remix. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a collection, which I'm going to upload on GitHub, which will have all the code that we are working with. Cool, so now we got our NFTs on our server, we can reach it with the browser. We need a front-end based dApp to start off with. What better way of choosing the front-end based dApp over here? Make sure you copy the code over there and then go back to your IDE. Now we can see that we're already in the Creative Art open source project. So what I want to do is just maybe open it in the same directory, because I want to save everything for you guys in a nice big folder on GitHub, so you can actually pull down both of these repos in one. So that's going to be pretty cool. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say new terminal, and I'm going to say get clone that. And let's go and clone the front end Dapp, which is pretty cool. For this front end Dapp, what you'll need is Node.js, Yarn, Truffle, and Ganache CLI. All right, just a side note, just to make sure you can run everything. But we'll get to that part now. This is the front end based Dapp, and we can just say open again, because this time I've got both projects. I would like to always open the root in my IDE where I work at, so that's why I do this. Next thing what we want to do is we want to add our smart contract in here. Now there's an interesting thing that I need to mention at this point. Previously, we've written out these smart contracts, especially for doing this in the previous tutorial where we created line by line. I really want you to understand that it's very difficult at the end of the day to go and verify contracts that's been split up with Open Zeppelin dependencies, which is fine, and there is ways of verifying it. It just makes it easier when everything is in one file. I'm going to go and grab that file and paste it in here and then walk you through it a bit. So let's remove everything in this smart contract.sol and head over to remix.ethereum.org and open up this IDE. The reason why we want to use Remix is so that we can test our smart contract and make sure that it can deploy. We have a simple smart contract, and this is exactly kind of the same as the one that we've created in the previous tutorial. This time, I've just changed a few parameters. We are not going to make this 1,000 Ethereum, but 100 Ether. Now, I'm going to be deploying this on the Polygon network, so if Ether is basically, if I can think about it, Matic, right? Because this is going to be on the Matic network, and I will never ask someone 100 Ether for an NFT. But anyway, who knows? These NFTs might go as, as high as 100 Ether, but this is going to be on Polygon. So just remember, this is kind of exactly the same as saying, well, this is the same as 10 times 10 to the power of, where's the power of? To the power of 18, I believe. Something. But anyway, I like using the keyword Ether because I know that Polygon has the same decimal point as Ethereum, which is 18. My max supply is going to be 1,000 and my max minting amount is 20. That's about the only changes that I did in the parameters over there. And then we've added this whitelisted mapping of addresses. This whitelisted mapping of addresses is placed in there for if there's a influencer or someone in this community who's maybe won an NFT and I want them to go and mint one without paying the 100 Matic. I can then whitelist their number as the contract owner. But apart from that, I mostly won't be using that at all. I would rather mint an NFT and give it to the person who wins a competition. By the way, we'll think about a competition in this series where you can actually win one of these cool nerdy coder clones, and stick around to find out more. But anyway, this is our basic contract. I go through it line by line in the previous tutorial. In this tutorial, it's just how to use it. So I've now done this and I want to make sure that I can run it. So everything is auto-compiling, the enable optimization is running, and if I go and select this contract over there, then I will be able to deploy it. I do, however, want to change the ballot, this ballot.sol, and let's go and rename it, and let's rename it to something a bit more meaningful. So I'm going to rename this to the nerdy. It probably won't matter because we're probably not going to use that in our code, but it just is good measure to do that. So once we've changed it, let's go back to the compiler. Let's go select our contract and make sure that we can mint it. We want to say test, test, and then maybe down here we don't want to say test, but actually have the metadata string in there. So let's do that. Let's say transact, and we on the VM, the JavaScript VM, so this should be quick. We have everything down here as it is, and we can go down. We can see how many there are. There's 20 NFTs. And for now, all I care about is testing if the token URI works. And indeed it does. So if I go and open a new tab and I run it, I should get the metadata. And now I know that everything is connected up correctly. The rest of the function should work as follow and as designed before. For instance, I can now go and copy this address, paste it in here, and mint one to this address, and you see it's working. If I try and mint more than 20, for instance 22, it will fail because I set the minting limit to 20. Now, I've tested out this contract before, especially with the Lunar Land team when we were busy doing their NFTs, so I'm quite confident that this is perfect. I'm not going to go through it line by line. What I do want to show though is how to kind of prepare this contract not only to work in our code, but to flatten it in a way so that we can easily verify it. Let's go ahead and try that. Okay, so at this point, I'm fairly confident that I have everything I need. I've got it set to 100 Ether, aka Matic, just remember that because we are going to deploy this on the Polygon network. I've got 1,000 max supply, and then I've got everything set up as I wanted, and I'm happy. So I need to verify that everything is rightly spelled and that my collection has a name, and I did do a build and test it out. What we need to do now is flatten this file. Just because a flattened file imports into the Polygon ecosystem or Etherscan, whatever kind of scanner you use to verify this contract. So I found a plugin and it's called Flattener. Now you can search for the plugin over there, Flattener, and it will open up here on the left hand side with this little note sign. And it would say, it would have the selected file that I have over there and put it over here. Now, what is Flattener going to do? Basically, it's going to go and it's going to search for the ownable, it's going to search for the ERC 721 contract, and also import all the dependencies in one file. So if I go and I say flatten this contract, you might see a pop-up and then you can just accept it, and then you can go and save it. All right, so once you've accepted this, it goes and saves somewhere, and it saved it underneath where, let me just see, it saved it over there it is, and this is the flattened contract. Now I'm going to pull this flattened contract just in here. Can I even do that? Well, before I do that, there's some errors that occurs. Now in these errors you'll see that mostly it has to do with the way that it started importing and flattening the files. So I wonder if I do this again, but this time switch around my actual dependencies. So I'm going to just remove that, and I'm going to delete that one, and then I'm going to go back to my contract, so which is up here, the nerdy coder. And I can see that this was flipped around. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this out and put this below the ownable. I'm just going to try and see if that gives me a bit of better results when I flatten the file. I'm going to say flatten. I'm going to say go and save, and then say accept. Perfect. So we can see that we still get a few errors, but now I need to just go and figure this out. Now the step of doing this errors and kind of solving them, I like to close everything that I can, like so, and the error usually says definition of base has a preset definition of derived contract. Okay, it means that this is importing the IRC 721. But the problem with that is the IR721 is nowhere close to be found, right? It's sitting. Let me go and search for it quickly, and it's going to most probably sit below it. So it's not that one. I'll just do this. IRC. and everything has an IRC in it, so it's quite difficult to show you. But I am going to find it. There we go. There's the contract. Now, it says that line told us, and I can just clean up some of these lines. That line told us that this interface basically comes after it, right? And it needs to come before it. So a good thing to do is move all the IRC, which is the interfaces, to the top. Now remember to copy this in with all their files. Now I like to keep it nice and neat like so. You'll see that it does export them quite wildly, how can I say, or spaciously. I'm going to cut this out, I'm going to close this gap, and then I'm going to scroll all the way to the top, and you see there's the problem. What I'm going to do is, like I said, I'm going to clean this a bit up. I'm going to give this a space. I still have that file or that piece of code copied. I'm going to go to the very top. I'm going to paste it. Now I'll see that this is now fine. You know, this interface is inheriting from this, but now we've got a problem because this one needs to be on top of this, you know, and that's how you're going to keep on doing it. I'm going to go and sort out all these little contracts. So now my next mission is to find this contract over here. Well, the IRC contract, here it is. Here's the interface. Very nice and actually quick to find. So I'm going to clean this up again. Then I'm going to take all of that. I'm going to cut it out. Cleaning up code. And this is unfortunately a manual process that I found that there's no way to avoid. Okay. Basically now we don't have an error there, we don't have an error there, but there is still an error somewhere, and if we scroll down we can find it over there. Now this is going to tell us that the context needs to be above it, and that's what I am talking about. You're going to kind of go and find each and every one and go and do the same thing. So I'm going to see you guys in a bit after I've cleaned this up, and I will leave the cleaned up code also in the contract or in this repo so that you guys can go ahead and use it as well. I'm going to cut this out and let's go and move it above this line, right? Well, actually, let's move it right above where it's needed, because I don't want to move it too high, because as soon as we move things always to the top, it might not always work. So I'm just going to move it where it's needed. So it's needed there, and then we get a warning. So now it's pretty easy. Let's see what this warning is. It needs some kind of license. Now I like to grab the license from one of these base files that Remix has, but that's just my preference. So I go to this file, and then right here at the top we put that line first. Okay. Let's see what else does it have. So nothing, everything looks fine. Everything is going to be built correctly. So if I now want to, I can go and cut everything out from here. I can go to my nerdycoder.sol code, paste everything in here, and it should compile. That was actually much quicker than I thought. So I'm just going to wait for it to compile. I'm not going to touch Remix. Sometimes Remix does freak out a little bit and break if you do too much stuff, and then you have to reload the browser like so, and yeah. So I'm just going to refresh Remix and then paste the code in there. Okay, we're back on Remix, and I had to kind of clear all the state of this website because sometimes Remix does act up. I'm now going to just make use of any of these files, because as soon as I save files in the cache, it starts acting up. So I'm going to paste in my contract and then let it try and build. I'm also going to try and rename this and hope that this doesn't break. What I'm going to call this is the Nerdy Coder Clones. Alright, I like that sound of that, and it sounds pretty neat. We have the flattened file here now. So now the only thing that we need to do is compile it. So we can select any compiler version. I'm going to go for compiler 0.8.4, and I'm going to say auto compile and enable optimization. Now I'm just going to leave this to run. Hopefully it does its thing and everything is sorted. I know that I am happy with the code here at the bottom where we've made these changes, and hopefully this just compiles successfully so that I can at least do one more build. And it looks like it did indeed build successfully. So I am very happy. I will leave a copy of this code inside our project folder under flattened smart contract, just so that you guys also have a reference to it. Let's go ahead and go to the build file now and just check out our smart contract. So let's go and search for it. So there's the nerdy contract over there. This one, there we go. And I see I can still deploy it successfully. Everything looks good. I'm just going to go ahead and deploy this on the Polygon network once and for all. All right, let's go. So go to the MetaMask, and what you'll need to do is switch actually the network. So let me go onto the Polygon network because that's where I want to be. And once I'm on there, it says not connected. So how you can manually connect to sites is you can click on this button, go on connected sites, manually connect, and just say next, connect. There we go, and we connected. So now if I say injected web 3, we should see that we have the custom 137 network. Now the 137 network is indeed the Polygon network, so I know that I am indeed on it. What I want to do next is be very careful with what I do. Because I need to verify this contract too, I want to keep the data that's going to be implemented here. The first thing that we need is giving this a name. So we're going to type in the nerdy, the nerdy coder clones, and it's going to be NCC. And then we need this initial base, right? And we already have that, which is there. So I can go back and copy and paste it. Remember that you put your correct base in here and that it's going to work, all right? And this is all custom data, so you can't copy me here. So this is the nerdy coder clones. I just want to make sure everything is correct. By the way, if you press on this copy button over here, you will actually copy the input data values, and that might be valuable to save somewhere. I am going to go ahead and save it anyway. So let me go and make a new folder over here and call it, I don't know, deploy files. Maybe I'll just do that. And I'm just going to say, we need a new file. I'm just going to call it deploy.txt. It doesn't need to be fancy. I'm just going to paste that in there. Okay. Now this is a bunch of stuff, and I don't even know if I can retrieve this again. But it looks like I can. But it's starting to cap it over there, which I don't know if that's a good idea. Yeah, I don't know if it's copied everything. But anyway, I'm just going to leave it like that. Oh, it did copy everything. Okay, so that's our deploy, and maybe I can call this, I don't know, data, rename to, what is this called? Copied the value. This is the deployed data. Okay, I'm just going to leave it as deploy data. That's fine. Next, what I want to do is I want to say transact. Now, I've made sure that I have the nerdy coder clones, and I'm going to transact this. Let's see how much is this going to cost me, and you can see that it's very minimum, right? The maximum amount is this amount of Matic. So I'm going to go ahead and say confirm. Now, this is going to do its thing on the actual network, and this is really important to understand, because what it's going to be doing is deploying on the network, and once it's done, we should get an instance of our contract here. So just keep everything open on Remix now. Don't touch anything, because it's important that you use some of this data to actually go and verify your contract afterwards. I'll continue with the video once the transaction is done, and then we'll continue showing you what to do next. Alrighty, so our smart contract is now mined and it's on the blockchain. It's there forever. Now, we need to verify that this works. Now, the reason why I say keep Remix open is because right at the bottom here now, you can actually open the contract and interact with it. Most importantly, you would need to copy this address. This address is explicitly your contract address. So if we go to Polygon scan and we go and paste this address in here, by the way, this is HashLips. If you want to go and grab some, go and do so. Make sure it's the right contract address though. Anyway, let me go in there and search for it. Here we go, the Nerdy Coder Clones. Guys, this is going to be one of the biggest collections out there, I hope. But anyway, here it is. And we can see that there was a transaction that took place. And this is obviously the contract creation. But if we click on the Nerdy Coder Clones contract, we can see hopefully that the first 20, there we go, was minted. And now, for those of you who said that this does not work, if you follow my tutorials to the T, your stuff would work. So if we go to OpenSea now on my name, there we go. There are our NFTs. Well, this is my NFTs, my 21s. And I'm so glad I got, oh my goodness, I got a one with the bird. I really wanted one of these. But anyway, I'm so glad I got one. These are my ones now. So you can go ahead and go and get yours. But we're not done yet, right? Because these are now on OpenSea. We can verify that everything looks good by going on it and checking the properties. And indeed, there's all of our properties. I'm very proud of this collection. This is my first collection because it feels like I've just been helping people out the whole time and never spent some time on my own stuff. So I'll be updating this. I want you to know that once you get to this point, once you click on your collection and you click on the collection's name, the Nerdy Coder Clones doesn't have a profile picture, nor does it have a background. So what you can do is you can click on edit, and because you created this repo, you can sign it, well, this collection, and you can start uploading your content here. When you do this, this will show up and your collection will show up as part of your collections and you're good to go. Now, I highly encourage you to fill in all these details. It would be nice to fill it all in. You can put your percentage of royalties in there and then you can just hit save. Okay, there would be a button here. There, update changes. And this is what I'm going to be doing after this tutorial. I just wanted you guys to see this. So that you also know how to do it. But basically everything is working now. Lastly, what we want to do on Polygon scan is actually verify the contract. Now I can go ahead and click on the address over there and I can go to the contract and I can see that there's these bytecodes, right? But this is just bytecode that's there and it's not verified. So now I can click on verify my contract and make sure that it's your contract address. You can go and select a type, and because we have concatenated all the files, you can click on single type. Now, after you've done that, click the solidity version. We chose 0.8.4 for our version, and the licensing type was this public license, right? I'm going to go ahead and say continue, and the next thing that it's going to ask me is, was optimization used? Well, yes it was, so we need to tick that on, and then we need to enter the code below. So what this is going to be basically doing is it's going to ask us the code that we've made the contract from. So go and select everything, copy it, go back and paste it in here. This should be all the code that's needed for this. Then scroll down, and in this section, this is very important. Now, I usually struggle with this part, and that's why I've saved all of the data in here. I saw a little trick that someone tried, and I'm going to try it now, and if this doesn't work, we'll find another way, but let's give it a shot. You take all this data, and this is basically your smart contract, but the data that line is looking for is everything here, all the zeros. So you see, you go up until the last trailing zero over there, where all the zeros start, and you have to include that zero. Make sure that this is where it starts. It's fine. Then go and copy all these zeros, plus this content, right? We're going to go back to the ABI. We're going to make sure everything is cleared out. And this is basically needed if your contract used a constructor. Now, what is the constructor? This is this little code, these values that we placed in. That's why when I selected copy, basically it then, pasted it in there for us. So I filled in the values and clicked on copy. I have no idea if this is going to work. It's never really worked for me on the first try. I always had to go and do research and then try new methods. But maybe, just maybe, this is our lucky day. I'm going to go and click verify, and we'll see what happens. So this is going to take a while. It might take up to 30 seconds as we see up there. But just while we wait, oh my goodness, it's verified. No way, that is pretty cool. That is pretty cool. I've never had this happen the first time. So I'm very glad. It says, cool, successfully generated bytecode. Everything looks good. I feel like a pro at this stage. But anyway, let's go back to our contract address. It should be one of these addresses. Anyway, I'll just copy it from Remix again. That's why it's important to just know where this sits. Maybe if we search for it here already, nerdy coded clones, there it is, right? Nerdy coded clones. And make sure if you guys want to go and buy one, that you have the correct address. So yeah, there it is. And the contract's now verified. So hopefully when we click on it, yes, the contract is. So that means that I can go and read from my contract from Polygon scan and also go and write to my contract, which is pretty cool. So you guys can go ahead and also mint from here. But I highly recommend using the Dapp that we are going to be creating. Thank you so much for sticking around to this part. Now we're going to implement the Dapp. And after that, implementing the Dapp, people will be able to mint these NFTs.